Hey guys, episode 4 of MYRigs, 3 brand new rigs, and you know what? Let's go check it out. Alright, now first up we have Sally. Now Sally's running a pretty decent setup in my opinion. However, I'm not quite a fan of this whole speaker positioning because 5 speakers on a table doesn't actually do it. And given the size of the table, you're actually crowding the table a bit too much. And the monitor riser could actually be modded a bit more, or you can even spray it to a decent color because the entire looks of the monitor riser does spoil the entire setup. Now Sally's running an i5-3470 processor with a Asus GTX 670 housed by a Corsair carbide spec alpha casing. Now that does look actually really good in terms of lighting as well. I'm not a fan of too bright colors like red because it gives too much contrast to the overall setup, but in this case it does actually work. Sally's using a Asus brand keyboard which I've never actually heard of before, but it does look pretty decent, and also a Corsair M65 PRO RGB gaming mouse. Cable management does seem on point, everything does look really good, everything seems quite tidy in terms of cables, but I do see that little white cable dangling out and I'm not too sure what sort of cable is that. I think it's an iPhone cable or probably a Samsung cable. And I see this little white round football. I think that's a footrest, so that does seem a little bit out of place. Thank you so much for joining, Sally. Alright, up next we have Amyrul. Now Amyrul's PC is there's really nothing spectacular about it, but I would just like to go into his parts or his build specifically. He's using an i5-6500 Skylake processor, which I actually did do an overclock video in my channel, so you can check it out in the description below. And the fact that he's using a Z-series motherboard, so he does actually, or in my opinion, he is actually going to overclock, and it's actually a smart thing to do. And it just doesn't end there. Now Amyrul's also using a GTX 1070 graphics card, which shoots out a pretty damn good display on his BenQ XL2420Z gaming monitor. Of course, this monitor runs at 144Hz, which is obviously a gaming monitor, and at a 1080 resolution, which you could actually bump up to 2560 by 1440 by obviously upgrading your monitor, and it does make a lot of sense if you have a 1070 graphics card. He's also using a Phanteks Enthoo Evolv ATX glass case, which has been on my wish list for quite a while. It is a pretty expensive case. Overall cable management does look pretty on point. I'm going to leave all the specs again in the description below. Thank you so much for joining, Amyrul. Finally, we have this entire setup or man cave setup by Afik. This is probably my favorite setup so far in MYRigs for the past 4 episodes, simply because this is the real definition of a man cave. Now, all looks aside, Afik is running an i5-4690 processor with a Z97 Pro gamer motherboard, and obviously he has a beast graphics card, which is the GTX 1070 Founders Edition. Everything else is housed inside the NZXT S340 Razer Edition case. Now, I like the entire color scheme of this whole setup, or his rig specifically. It's green and red. The red is not too overkill, and the green is nice and subtle, even though there's a fair bit of green going on, but everything does seem in place. Now, cable management does look really on point as well. I don't see any cables dangling around. Everything either seems to be stuck to the wall or seems to be hidden. Thank you so much for joining, Afik. Now, which one of these 3 rigs are your most favorite rig? Do you like Sally's rig, do you like Amyrul's rig, or do you like Afik's man cave? Personally, I'm a fan of Afik's man cave after this episode, so let me know in the comment section below. That's all I have for this week. Now, if you have any comments, questions, anything like that, leave them in the comment box below. I'll be more than happy to reply. If you want to submit your rigs, pictures of your rigs, you can email it to me at myingamebestgiller@gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to feature them for absolutely free. Now, of course, do not forget to hit the button subscribe. Now, that's going to mean a lot to me when it comes to seeding out content, and that's also going to be more encouraging if you have more subscribers, of course. And if you like this video, do not forget to hit the button like, because that's also going to mean a lot to me. Well, everything means a lot to me. And you know what? I'll see you in the next episode.